On this episode of Bigfoots Pad Paranormal Radio, the team dives into the mystery of ghost ships and alien civilizations. Tune in. This is going to be one great show you won't want to miss.
Between what we see and everything we know and believe, there are worlds. There are things that we cannot understand. Bigfoots Pad Paranormal Investigations team is in charge of the field. Bigfoots Pad Paranormal Investigations team. Bigfoots Pad Paranormal Investigations team. Bigfoots Pad Paranormal Investigations team.
And welcome to another edition of Bigfoots Pad Paranormal Radio. And today's show, like I was saying, is going to be about ghost ships and alien civilizations. And I was going to say, Tim, is there any way that you and Brent could talk a little bit about your newest video you made?
Sure. Well, a couple of days ago, I had some free time on my day off from work, so I made a video of our Bigfoot investigation of our prairie tour from 2010, finally. I was actually able to put it on there. It basically goes over the fundamentals of us going over looking for Bigfoot, and we encountered some weird stuff over it.
Oh, yeah. Was that the newest one, the Bigfoot one?
Yeah.
And like Tim was saying, for those of you who haven't seen the video yet, you should really check it out. It's a sneak peek of what's more to come. We're going to be putting out a lot more videos here and there, and we're hopefully going to be starting a documentary series here soon, but there's more about that in the future. For now, we're just going to...
Yeah. Let me give away the link. It's www.youtube.com/user/BFP team.
Well, I'm going to get started with a little bit of strange and paranormal news for today. Einstein's brain is what this one's about. If you've ever wondered what the brain of a genius looks like, make your way to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. There, the public can view for the first time 46 slivers of the brain of Albert Einstein, the theoretical physicist who developed the theory of general relativity. The brain is on display in Philadelphia's Mutter Museum of Historical and Medical Library, in a whirlwind exhibit built in about 9 working days. According to the museum curator, visitors can view 45 of the brain slides as is and see one magnified under a lens. Interesting.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. See Einstein.
The only thing I don't understand is why would you chop his brain up into pieces?
I don't know.
To see if he's actually human.
Brent did it.
How'd you know?
We are going to call one of our co-hosts really quick. He says he's having problems, so we're going to call him and surprise him. Well, our co-hosts, one of them doesn't seem to be answering. Anyways, so the next news story, a hypersonic flying missile that can strike a target anywhere in the world in about 30 minutes has been unveiled by the United States military. The Advanced Hypersonic Weapon, or AHW, that travels 5 times the speed of sound, was successfully tested yesterday. It was launched by a rocket from Hawaii at 11:30 a.m. and glided southwestwards through the upper atmosphere over the Pacific at hypersonic speed before hitting the target on the Kwajalein Atoll in the Marshall Islands. I think if I say that, Kwajalein Atoll. Sorry about that. Some 2,500 miles away. It comes hot on the heels of the U.S. Air Force announcement that it has taken delivery of an 15-ton bunker buster bomb called the Massive Ordnance Penetrator that can blow apart 200 feet of concrete. And if it's rolled out by the U.S. military, it will mean America will no longer have to rely on stationing missiles in foreign countries.
That sounds pretty sweet.
Yeah, it does. Watch that,
like
everybody.
A Wolverine on a waffle. A saying that Brent made up yesterday.
So with that missile, is it like it could go like it's intercontinental, or it could only go so far?
Well, they said that it could hit anywhere in the world in 30 minutes or less.
Or it's free?
Exactly. The Noid will get him. But what's crazy about that missile, though, if you think about it, so what they're saying is this missile shoots up into the upper atmosphere, almost into space, and goes all the way down and strikes the target. That's a pretty crazy weapon right there, if you think about it.
Yeah.
That means that somehow someone had some sort of a spaceship that you could, someone had some sort of spaceship up there, you could even hit him with that rocket.
Yeah, that'd be pretty intense.
Take that, Russian space program. We don't share nothing with ours in space. Anyways, research into producing electricity from urine has been carried out by scientists at the University of the West of England in Bristol. It's claimed the publication of a research paper into the viability of urine as a fuel for microbial fuel cells, or MFCs, is the world's first. They say tests have produced small amounts of energy, but more research and more time studying could produce useful levels of power from human and animal urine. What do you think of that one, Brent?
Reminds me of something we were talking about when I visited. Like powering your car with urine.
Oh yeah. So it's pretty. I mean, it is a renewable fuel source, I guess, in a way, if you think about it. Nick just called in. Nick, you on the line?
Yeah, I'm on the line.
We're talking about urine as a renewable fuel source. What do you think about that?
Oh, like Arthur used to talk about all the. Remember back in high school, Arthur used to talk about all those different things. I'm sorry, hair and urine and all sorts of other stuff. If there's some chemicals that can be burned in it, why not? That's all I gotta say. Then again, you might be pumping different types of toxins in the environment that gas doesn't do. I don't know I don't know enough science behind that thing.
That's a good answer there, Nick. Good answer. Well, the next news article, it says in Anchorage, Alaska, a research team is attempting to discover the origin of a cast bronze artifact excavated from an Inuit Eskimo home, the site believed to be about 1,000 years old. Artifact resembles a small buckle, researchers from the University of Colorado Boulder said in an announcement. How it got to Alaska remains a mystery. The object appears to be older than the house that they were excavating by a few hundred years, which baffles and makes scientists question. Research assistant John Hoppiker said that in the release, it was found on Alaska's Seaward Peninsula. The object has a rectangular bar connecting to a broken circular ring. It's about 2 inches in length and 1 inch wide. It was found in August at a home that was dug into a deep beach ridge.
Huh. Kind of sounds like kind of loud.
What's that?
I said it was kind of loud there for a second, but it sounds like the Inuit home. It sounds like someone found it there, like found it like in that time era. Probably someone found it somewhere else and then brought it to their home.
Hmm.
I see.
Yeah, that's exactly what it does sound like.
I'm letting me connect to it. I keep clicking it. I'll try again in a minute, Becky.
Oh, okay.
But can you hear all right, Brent?
What's that?
Hey, can you hear all right, or is it loud on your side?
Oh, it's fine now.
All right. Well, we're going to start with today's topic of the day. Well, the main topic. It's ghost ships. This is a listener-submitted topic, so we're going to try our best at this. It's a favorite of Nick.
Of course.
A ghost ship is a supposedly haunted or ghostly vessel, or the same term is also used to describe derelict ships found adrift and their entire crew either missing or dead, such as the Mary Celeste or the Baichimo, I think the Baichimo. Sorry, I'm very good with that type of stuff. But the first thing I'd like to bring up, I'm going to bring up a couple of sighting reports, so I think I'm going to do this because this is kind of a hard thing to bring up. Well, first of all, I'm going to just talk about a couple of the famous ones. The Flying Dutchman. It says, the ship manned by a captain condemned to eternally sail the seas has long been a principal ghost ship legend amongst mariners and has inspired several movies and books. So I guess it says it was founded in 1795 and has some sort of truth to this. I'll say a little bit of the story, but it's kind of like 10 pages long, so I'll just give you the gist of it. I guess that there's a Norwegian ship. The guy that's selling his soul, or the ship was sinking, depending on which version of the story you hear. And this guy, he sailed the seas for eternity, I guess terrorizing sailors or just doomed to wander like a ghost. I guess that's why it's called a ghost ship, so it makes sense. But what do you think, Nick?
Well, first I apologize if it comes in loud in the background from time to time. I'm sitting in a food court on a mall on Saturday night about to go to work in a little bit, so it might come in loud. And then secondly, when I think about the Flying Dutchman, it's a very reputable story that has been told for a long, long time. It's in Pirates of the Caribbean and various other films, so a lot of people are familiar with this one. I don't know of any recent sightings, but due to the number of sightings, I think that something's going on. I don't know what it is. Are they seeing a ghost ship, perhaps? But it just could be an old fisherman's tale, like some grandfather saying, when I was 15 years old, I caught a fish in the lake up the street that was 100 feet long and 1,000, something like that. So I don't know enough about the subject to really comment on it rather in large detail.
Well, here's a good one. I thought this one was sort of interesting because we were talking about doppelgangers and ghosts recently. It says there's a boat called the Eliza Battle. It's a paddle steamer. I guess it said it burned in 1858 on the Tombigbee River in Alabama, and I guess they said that it reappears periodically throughout history, fully on fire into flame on cold and windy winter nights usually, it says, and every time they see that ship, some kind of disaster ends up happening.
So it's some type of an omen?
That's what they're saying.
Oh, okay.
What do you think, Brent?
I don't know. sounds interesting. I mean, I don't know that much about ghost ships, but it sounds pretty cool.
I guess it said that there was an earthquake before, and it said that there was a hurricane nearby, and then it says, I'm just going over a quick synopsis of that, but I guess they said that it was reported up until the 1950s people were seeing that, which is pretty interesting to me. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, here's an interesting story. The Mary Celeste, perhaps the most historically famous derelict ship, was found abandoned between Portugal and Portugal's Azores archipelago. There was no crew members on board, and the ship was largely intact and under the sail, heading toward the Strait of Gibraltar. It said, sorry, I got sidetracked here. Anyways, yeah, so
you said it was on the Strait of, it was near
on it, heading toward the Strait of Gibraltar. It said, well, Arthur Conan Doyle's story, one second, sorry, now I'm off on it. Anyway, it said that the last log entry was 11 days prior to them discovering the ship. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with this. I know Nick's more into the folklore and stuff. He has more stories than I do.
Well, as for that ship, for any derelict ship found at sea, there are, a lot of different explanations that could be possible. The one that immediately comes to my mind is perhaps they all went crazy due to dehydration. Out there in Vegas, you guys have heard stories of hikers getting lost in the desert, and they get dehydrated, and they're found dead, naked, lying in some ditch somewhere on the side of the highway.
Yeah.
Well, a similar thing could happen on these boats. Perhaps, because when you're out on the sea, you're basically in a desert because the water that you're on is salt water. You can't drink it. So if the freshwater supply is gone, you're in trouble. These people could have become dehydrated and gone crazy and maybe jumped overboard, or that's what I would think, perhaps. I'm not a medical doctor, so I don't know if they would all go crazy and jump off the side of the ship, but I think it's definitely possible if they face an altered state of mind that makes them crazy enough to run around naked and do whatever like people in the desert do.
Well, there was a story that you and me heard when we used to live by here about a guy that was driving a car and jumped out to make a sandwich. I don't know if you remember that one, because the guy got dehydrated.
Yeah. So when the human body is dehydrated, it goes through some very extreme changes, and one of those extreme changes is massive psychosis. So that's one of my hypotheses, one of my guesses for what is the cause of some, like Stan Friedman says, some of these ghost ships.
Well, I have a good one right here. It says, here it is. The Bechamo, the ship I said earlier, was found abandoned in the Arctic Ocean when it became trapped in pack ice and was thought doomed to sink, but remained afloat and was sighted numerous times over the next 48 years without ever being salvaged. That's kind of weird. Because if it was trapped in ice, how were they seeing it out at sea just floating around at two different places at once?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question.
What do you think about that there, Brent?
Yeah, that's kind of weird how they could just see it like that. I mean, it could be the ghost.
Well, because you would think that people could be spirits, or people could be haunt. I guess you could say people could haunt areas. How would a ship come back as a ghost? That's the only thing not really understanding about all this. Because the ship doesn't really have a soul or a spirit in a sense, so kind of strange. How would that have worked?
Well, maybe the souls that perish on the ship, maybe they need something to attach themselves to, so they just attach themselves to the ship, and then I guess if a number of them are attached to the ship, then maybe, you know, they could carry on the ship too, as what they were.
You mean the energy of the ship, you mean?
Yeah, like
the
ship, like the last place they died type of thing.
Well, I can tell you guys something kind of wild, but it's scientifically possible. Right now, one of the most popular theories in physics is quantum mechanics, and with that theory, they say that there are different dimensions. There's an infinite possible amount of dimensions that we do not know about. So perhaps after the soul passes away, it goes into another dimension and it finds the ship in an alternate universe in a way, and it plays itself out. And from time to time, we catch a glimpse of it playing itself out in another dimension.
I never thought of that. Is pretty interesting. I never thought of that. You sound like you're kind of muffled.
Yeah, what the?
Yeah,
no, I hear a bunch of static.
Are you guys able to hear me?
Yeah.
I've been having trouble with the audio. There's all this staticky noise, so I'm kind of having trouble listening. But you guys are talking about how is it possible for ghost ships to exist? Well, there's also things, you know, like the phantom trains, ghost trains, and ghost cars. So there's other type of vehicles and other things of transportation that there are ghosts of. So it's not just, I mean, I know you guys know that, but it's not just ships. There are ghost cars, ghost trucks, ghost trains. So, and they are pretty fascinating because everyone assumes it's, you know, a ghost is the soul or spirit of a living person, so how could it be something like a vehicle of some sort, like a car or a train or a ship?
Yeah.
Like I said, it could just be the soul of a person that exists on another plane of existence, in another dimension, acting out what it did in this dimension or this plane of existence.
Well, it's also...
It might be kind of hard to wrap your head around, but...
Well, it's kind of like whenever certain haunted objects, when a certain imprint of some energy, maybe a traumatic event took place or something near it or around it, whatever. There's all sorts of items, dolls and pianos or whatever that are haunted by ghosts. I mean, it could be that ghost, or like trains and cars and ships kind of do that too. They're haunted by the spirit's energy, and that kind of, I don't know, creates the image. Or I don't know if it's just, in some cases, I think it's just residual. You're seeing just a playback of maybe a car going down a road. Maybe there's like a car accident that happened, or a train accident.
Yeah.
So it could be just residual in some cases.
Yeah.
Well, I have a story here from 1933. It says, a lifeboat from a 1906 wreck of the passenger steamship, the SS Valencia, off the south coast of Vancouver Island, Canada, was found floating in an area in remarkably good condition 27 years after the sinking to the day. The sailors also reported seeing the ship itself, not just the lifeboat, but the ship, 27 years after the sinking. And it says the apparition is still seen followed down the coast, and it says that it's been caught on film before.
Well, I'd like to offer one more explanation for why we see objects such as ships manifesting themselves. This is another little science tidbit. I'm kind of a science nerd. Everything that exists in reality is just energy, including solid things. Solid things are just a bunch of energy put together, in essence. So when somebody dies or something decomposes, it's not really going away. It just becomes energy. And it goes back into the energy field that everything's part of. So somehow, and this is where it gets weird, the energy remanifests itself into the structure or a person, even after these people or structures are purportedly to not exist anymore.
Yeah. Well, better said in the words of the 300, though, Nick.
This is where we hold them. This is where we fight. This is where they die.
Exactly.
Well, I have a story here. This is the one I was speaking with Brent about when he was here. It's called the Flaming Ship of Ocracoke, or Ocracoke. During the first new moon of September, a ship of immigrants from Europe was sailing near Ocracoke, North Carolina. I didn't put the year down on here, so I wasn't thinking, but the crew and captain murdered the passengers and stole all their valuables. They set out on a longboat after setting the ship on fire to hide their crimes. Fortunately for the thieves, the ship turned toward them and ran them down and then turned back to sea. Many see the flaming ship and hear the cries of those murdered at all the time. It says in September on the anniversary, this is people see the ship or hear the cries of the people. Well, what was it that you and me were talking about that, Brent?
What's that?
Oh, I know we were talking about this. We were saying, if I understand how the ship supposedly manifests itself in the crew members, but when it's not manifested, is that energy just traveling over the water, or where's it at?
I'm not actually exactly sure, but I would say it would have to be on top of the water. Either that, or it's, you know, in the ship still, and it's like casting some kind of like residual energy, as Becky was saying, like on top of the water. Yeah.
Yeah. You want to take a stab at that, Nick?
Well, that ties directly into what I was saying about 5 minutes ago. Everything is just energy. Everything is solid matter, and things that are not matter are simply energy. So, yeah, that's definitely possible that residual energy is just left over the water, and then there's something that makes the residual energy manifest itself as a ship. That's what we don't know.
Because, like, with the theories that are out there about ghosts and spirits, if, say, a house is haunted, the energy of that spirit or that being is going to be in that general area. So does that mean if the ship travels up and down the coast and all that, does that mean the spirit is on the coast, or is it in the ocean, or where would it be when it's not manifest?
That's the interesting thing. Like, and again, we're very limited as to our knowledge with these subjects, so, you know, there's a lot of different possibilities out there.
No, there's not, Nick. You know people.
Wait, no, yeah, you're right. You know what it is? It's one of two things, Jer. It's one of two things. It's either swamp gas or a weather balloon.
Which one is it?
That's a government answer for everything.
Next, which one is it? Swamp gas or a weather balloon?
I think we might be seeing some swamp gas here. I don't know.
The SS Iron Mountain was a stern-wheeler riverboat built in 1864. It was 180 feet long and had a beam of 35 feet. 1872 was to make a journey from New Orleans to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania along the Mississippi River. On its way, it left Vicksburg with sugar, bale cotton, and barrels of molasses that it towed on a long string of barges. Also had a crew of 55 men. Later that day, another vessel, the Iroquois Chief, found the barges that belonged to the Iron Mountain floating without restraint down the Mississippi River. After the crew of the Iroquois Chief recovered the barges, they waited for the Iron Mountain to retrieve them, but the Iron Mountain never showed up. It was apparent that the ropes on the barges had been cut, not broken. The Iron Mountain, nor the crew, nor anything on the boat had ever been seen again. As many theorize that the SS Iron Mountain was sabotaged and sank that she was stolen or somehow sailed or hauled out to the Great Mississippi River. Still, others believe that the Iron Mountain experienced some supernatural, otherworldly event. But I'd also like to mention, it says that section of river, people say, almost has a Bermuda Triangle type disappearances of boats.
Ah. Well, that's something else, because you were talking about the two different definitions of ghost ships. Is it an actual ship that's like the ghost of a ship, or just the ones that people find the ships and the crew is all vanished? Those I find almost more fascinating than the ghost ships, just because everybody's gone. Where did everybody go? And
I was
going to say, I actually posted back in 2007, I posted on my message board about some ghost ships of Australia, and because it was just so weird and mysterious. There was an article, I was watching MSNBC News on that day, and they said something about a ghost ship had been found off the coast of Australia, and I can't find the exact article for this, but they said 3 men had set sail on a catamaran which returned on the shore with none of them aboard. And what's even more interesting is that this is the third ghost ship to return from Australian waters with all members on board missing. Huh? What?
I don't know. I think that's some background noise from Jera over there.
Okay. I was going to say, though, is that there was something from a 2002 incident was a ghost ship found with crew missing. It's just days after Hollywood released a horror film entitled Ghost Ship. I'm sure at least some of you guys have heard of that. It was in late October.
Yeah.
A stranger-than-fiction mystery began that is now haunting authorities down under. The discovery of a real-life ghost ship. And this is what it says. It says, the 65-foot vessel was found adrift off Western Australia January 4th with tons of rotting fish aboard, but without a single crew member anywhere to be found. The Australian Navy boarded the Taiwanese-registered High Aim 6 last week to find the boat in good sailing condition, with up to 3 tons of mackerel and tuna in the hold, but not to mention personal items such as 7 toothbrushes. The ghost ship reportedly began its voyage on Halloween, with the last known contact on December 13th, ironically Friday the 13th. Its owners were reached from the Marshall Islands, halfway between Papua New Guinea and Hawaii. And it says, let me skip some of this. It says the ship itself, it showed no evidence of foul play, but they don't know what happened to him. They believe that the crew consisted of a Taiwanese captain and engineer and possibly up to a dozen fishermen from Indonesia. And all these people are gone. But this is what's funny about this article, is that it almost sounds too good to be true, almost like a promotion for the movie, because they say it disappeared. Yeah. It started its voyage on Halloween, and then last known contact was December 13th, Friday the 13th. You can't really get more paranormal sounding than that. So that...
Yeah, well, what do you call it? There's also... I mean, it could have really happened. Strange coincidences have happened. I mean, if you look at the death of rapper Tupac Shakur, there's a lot of weird things that people... He, died on Friday the 13th, and there's, all these weird things. You can go Google it, and there's all these weird things you can find around his death. And it's creepy. It gets really paranormal sounding. Yeah. So, there's nothing. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say there was another one in 2006. It's another one that was found, another ghost ship found off the Queensland coast, and that one, let me just kind of skim it here and see what it says. A large quantity of rice was found on board, but there was no indication of recent human activity on the ship and no evidence of people smuggling. The vessel does not appear to have been abandoned or in distress. So apparently this is another ship that was found, no crew on it at all, and they don't know what happened. So I'm just the reason I posted this and the reason I'm talking about this is because I just found it was so interesting, because these were all off of, the coast of Australia, and it's just, it makes me wonder what is going on next to Australia. What's happening over there? Is there some sort of kind of Bermuda Triangle thing there, or sea monster, or what?
Right off the top of my mind, and the first thing that comes to my mind is pirates.
Yeah.
The Pacific, that part of the world.
I want your soul. I want them both right now.
That was random, but yeah, in that part of the world, pirates are notorious. They're up, even in our modern day, they're out there in the high seas, and they capture crews and plunder on their boats and whatnot. So some of those could probably be explained by pirates. But what would be suspicious to me is if it was pirates, they would probably plunder some of the things off the ships.
Yeah.
Yet, the accounts of these ships say they're left intact like nothing happened, and only the crew was missing. So that's kind of odd that pirates would capture just the crew and they wouldn't take any supplies or anything off the boat.
Yeah, that doesn't really sound like pirate behavior. It just kind of sounds like they were abducted somehow. I mean, that's why it's kind of this whole mysterious, almost like Bermuda Triangle disappearances, or you could even say maybe alien abductions or whatever. Because, I mean, you could say, there's other things. People could say, sea monster or something, but I would think a sea monster would destroy the ship. I think there'd be more evidence if it was something like that.
Yeah.
Jedi.
Well, something that I was thinking that I'd like to bring up was, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but on Paranormal News like a year ago, it said that some people went to the site of the Titanic where it sank, hopefully trying to do ghost investigations. What do you think of that? Do you think that's a bunch of BS? Do you think that you could actually capture something, or what?
They're going to find Jack and Rose dancing in that ballroom at the end. No, I'm just kidding.
You're saying they're investigating? They went underwater to investigate. What are you saying?
Oh no, they just had some sort of a boat, like a tugboat or something like that, and they were just driving above where the boat sank, and they were trying to get EMS readings and doing EVPs and stuff. I don't know if they captured anything, but I was just saying, do you think that it would even work, or do you think that's kind of a stupid thing to do, or what?
It sounds kind of difficult. Sounds like a very difficult area to investigate, just right there on the water. But I would imagine that area would have a lot of traumatic residual energy. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if you could hear people screaming from whenever we're in the water. I mean, I would think that area would be haunted. I mean, it's not that it is, but that all the people that died and how traumatic and tragic that was, I would imagine there would be some sort of residual energy in that location.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think about that, Brent? Do you think that that's a dumb thing to do, or what?
That what?
Do you think that's a dumb thing to do, trying to drive a boat over the side of the Titanic and trying to investigate? Or you think, I personally think that the ghost ships kind of appear whenever they want to. I don't really think that you could just go find them like a regular ghost hunt, if you ask me.
Well, you can't really do that with ghosts either. It's just kind of the luck of the draw, really.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell because, I mean, if you're going to try to get EVPs, you're only going to get, all the noise from the water sloshing around in the ocean and everything. I mean, there's a lot of elements in the ocean besides the water that can cause a lot of different things that you can make you see.
Disturbances?
Yeah. I felt the presence.
Well, in 1980, there's a movie called Death Ship. And this is a movie that we have to watch with as a group. It's about a lost Nazi German prison ship that's still being crewed by the evil spirits of a dead Nazi crew. It now roams the seas looking for new victims, picking up survivors to abuse and kill after it sinks their ships.
Oh, God.
That sounds like a Monster Man type of movie.
Yeah. That's Killer Clowns from Space.
I love Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Really?
Interesting movie.
I don't know what to say to that, because Becky's the only person I've ever met that's seen that movie without knowing us.
Yeah, that's
Where's
true.
my boo? Where?
I know Killer Clowns. With the cotton candy, like cocoons and the guns that shoot popcorn or the crawling popcorn.
Yeah, the guy at the beginning over here, where's my boo-bear?
Here it is. I found the story of the Flying Dutchman I was talking about earlier. This is another version of the story. It says the story of the Flying Dutchman is probably the best-known ghost ship. The ship was sailing up the Cape of Good Hope, the southern tip of Africa, when it encountered a bad storm. Because of the captain's refusal to sail to safe harbor, the ship was lost and the captain and crew doomed to sail the seas forever. And it says Richard Wagner wrote a play based on this legend. But anyways, it says, the ship is allowed to go to shore every 7 years in order to redeem himself by winning the hand of a maiden. And it says, that's what the book says. But on January 26, 1923, 4 seamen sighted what is believed to be the ghost ship of the Flying Dutchman. At 12:15 a.m., they noticed a strange light out at sea. Looking through binoculars, they were able to make out what looked like a ship's hull. The ship was luminous with 2 masts. Instead of sails, it appeared that there was a thin mist where the sails would be, almost as the ship had no sails. As the ghost ship neared the sailor's vessel, it suddenly disappeared. It said that the appearance of the Flying Dutchman is an omen of disaster, and it's seen most often during stormy weather. So, the thing I thought was kind of weird is there are always omens of disaster or something bad when you see ghosts.
Yeah, that is pretty interesting. I wonder why. Well, yeah. I mean, also, but it could be, I mean, if it's like during a storm, that could be during the time that the ship sank or something during a storm. Maybe that's why it went down. I mean, and that, you know, things would appear during the time, something like that, something that would be residual, like that type of energy from a storm, and that kind of recreating it would, I mean, maybe cause it to appear.
Well, there's an interesting thing, actually, I'd like to add. I'm Catholic, and at church about a month ago, we actually talked about ghosts and demonology and whatnot at our young adult group meeting. And one of the church's theories about ghosts is that these spirits go to suffer in a place called purgatory. And what they might do in purgatory is they might have to suffer the moment of their death for an indefinite, it's a lot of syllables, for an indefinite amount of time before they're allowed to enter heaven. So perhaps these people died and they have to suffer before they are allowed to cross over in purgatory. And I'd just like to throw those 2 cents in there.
That is interesting.
Hey, Jeremy, check out the chat room right now.
Well, I'm going to read probably 2 or 3 more sightings, and then we're going to go on to our other topic, because we need to have some good time for that. But anyways, it says there's a ship called the Young Teaser, T-E-A-Z-E-R. The Young Teaser is an American privateer schooner captained by Frederick Johnson. On the Mahoney Bay in Nova Scotia, Captain Johnson was nearing capture. Rather than be captured, the captain and his crew torched the ship, as we stated before in other stories, and exploded the powder magazine, killing everybody on board. A year later, a burning ship was sighted, and rescue ships were sent out to help. Before the rescue could be made, the ship vanished. It said that periodically, a ship can be seen in the bay still to this day, with men in flames running around on the decks in tents. So that's what would you do, Brent, if you seen the ship with people on fire running around in the spirit?
What's that?
What would you do if you seen that?
I can hardly hear you.
Yeah, that is really bad.
Oh, well, can you hear me now?
Yeah, it was sounding like Morse code for a second.
Oh, sorry, I put Becky on mute for a second. I think her thing's being loud.
Okay.
But I was saying, that's something else. If you were on that rescue crew and you actually see the ship yourself, right when you get right up next to it, there's people on fire running around on the deck.
Yeah.
Wow.
What would you do if you were a ghost? Would you run around on fire, Brent, or what would you do?
I would be the guy who had his head chopped off and would be on fire at the same time.
Random question.
Well,
Jeremy's always getting some random questions.
What would you do with? But,
Well, Jer, I'd like to ask you something if you know about this. If I recall correctly, I saw a special, I believe, on the History Channel once, or A&E, that talked about the ships at Pearl Harbor, that they are cited as ghost ships still. Is that correct? I'm not sure. I haven't seen it in a while.
I've seen some kind of show about that, but what I think you're talking about, I remember you seen it with us before. There was a show where there was a family that visited the Pearl Harbor Memorial, or the USS Arizona Memorial, and they were taking pictures outside of the ship underwater or whatever, because the thing's underwater, and they got like faces, like ghostly apparitions of sailors, like two of them. It was like from the chest up in the face of another one, and it was in the water, like the oil, which was kind of, I thought that was interesting. I don't know if you remember that part of it, but me and Brent actually seen that last time he was up here too. At least that part of it.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. That was very interesting to watch. So yeah, there are ghost ship sightings of the Pearl Harbor boats still. That's pretty interesting. That wasn't too long ago. You hear stories of something like the Flying Dutchman, and that's been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. So there is enough time for good mythology to build up around it. But the World War II battleships from Pearl Harbor, that event is, 60, 70 years old? So the mythology that could build up around that is not as much, if any. I think I heard one person said, in order for an event to be mythologized heavily, there needs to be at least 100 years or more to pass before the story can be altered, tremendously.
Yes, master. Rise.
But those sound effects. But with the World War II boats, and their eyewitness stories, plus the pictures and I think the EVPs they had of the battle, that gives very good evidence to the supernatural aspect of ghost ships. I mean, it's not really hard to prove the other type of ghost ships where a boat drifts to shore and the whole crew's missing. I mean, the evidence is concrete as you or I.
Well, we have 41 minutes left in the show, and before I go to a commercial break and go on to our next topic, I was going to say, what's your guys' final opinions on this? Is it real? Is it fake? Would you go look for him?
I'm not sure if going to look for them would be such a great idea. I think it would be a waste of resources kind of thing, but it would be cool to actually go look out and actually see if there is anything, see what people are seeing.
So you would see the man with his head cut off drive over to the Titanic crash site, Brent?
What's that?
Said you wouldn't be the guy that gets on the boat to go to the Titanic crash site?
Probably not.
What were you saying there, Nick?
I was saying Brent wants to go see the guy with his head cut off and on fire.
Oh, yeah.
Well, again, my opinion about this, I don't personally believe in it myself because I've never experienced it or seen it, but, I've only personally seen and experienced human and pet ghosts, so I don't know. So that's my opinion on it. Like, I'm with Brett, I wouldn't really waste our resources unless it's, proven to be real, but,
Yeah. Well, we are going to go on a quick commercial break, and when we get back, we are going to talk about our second topic of the night, which is alien civilizations, and you're listening to BFT Radio.
foaming cleanser. Clean pots and pans, just like a whiz.
Ajax cuts grease faster than any other leading cleanser.
Use the pain, the elbow tax, when you start cleaning with Ajax.
Ajax really polishes as it cleans.
So use Ajax, the foaming cleanser. Flush the dirt right down the drain.
My gosh, they're right.
Last week, Japanese scientists placed explosive detonators at the bottom of Lake Loch Ness to blow Nessie out of the water. Sir Court Godfrey of the Nessie Alliance summoned the help of Scotland's local wizards to cast a protective spell over the lake and its local residents, and all those who seek for the peaceful existence of our underwater ally.
And we are back on Bigfoots Pad Paranormal Radio. We're going to get started on our second topic of the night, which is alien civilization. Now, for this discussion, we're trying not to talk about what you hear all the time. We're trying to talk about mainly proof of alien existence in space, or like the SETI program. Not necessarily UFOs visiting Earth, but alien existence in space. I have this kind of loosely based on purpose. So is there anything you'd like to talk about here first, Brent?
What's that?
Okay, is there any specific things you want to talk about first for life, alien life in space?
Not that I can think of, but when we get further into the topic, I'll think something.
Oh, well, the first thing I'd like to bring up, have you guys seen these new articles and websites about Mars or cities on Mars, supposedly? Or someone thinks they found existence of cities on Mars?
Oh, yeah.
I've heard about stuff about that.
I was going to say, because to me, it looks kind of like just like water tracks, or where you can see where water's been in the past, but from far away it looks like the outline of a city, I guess. Who knows?
Wow.
So you haven't heard about that, Brett?
What's that?
So you said you haven't heard about that?
No, I have. I have heard about it.
Well, something else I'd like to bring up is kind of weird. There's also a thing I see, it's called a strange object we've seen orbiting Jupiter, and I guess even NASA tried to talk about it in some sort of a speech or a press release, but they didn't even know what it was. It's not necessarily a UFO, but I guess the way they were wording it is some sort of like a space station or a giant thing orbiting Jupiter that's not a planet and we didn't make it.
Yeah.
Hear about this, Tim?
Oh, well, we're going to start typing in the chat room.
I'll just talk about something else in a minute. But I guess what's weird about that is how big would that have to be to show up on far away like that for amateurs to be pointing that out like that?
I'm not sure, but I know some people out there, they can get their hands on some pretty powerful equipment to see stuff like that.
Well, the strange thing about it, if you think about it, is why Jupiter out of all the planets? I thought it's a gas planet. I don't know a whole lot about the other planets, but Jupiter is mainly a gas planet from what I understand, and there's nothing really there to, nothing really there to grasp or to want to go there like that. Yeah.
Well, like I said, well, while we're speaking about Jupiter and Saturn, remember there's supposed to be, people believe most likely, remember the moon of Jupiter, Europa, is supposed to most likely be able to hold life there, remember?
Yeah.
I thought that was Saturn's moon.
Well, there's, I believe it's, maybe it is, but I remember Europa's supposed to most likely support life, and then there's the one moon of Saturn, I can't remember its name right now.
Titan?
Yeah, I think it is Titan, yeah. I think they're supposed to be the most likely candidates out in our solar system to hold, like, of course it's not going to be like real alien life, it's going to be like bacteria and stuff, but I believe that there's somewhere out there there's definitely alien civilization somewhere, like the Greys and the Reptoids and all that sort of stuff we've heard about throughout the years.
Well, I know that they were saying something about they're making some sort of a sphere or a ball of some sort that's going to heat up, and it's going to melt through the ice on the surface, and I think they're thinking there might be liquid water underneath the ice.
Yeah, it's believed to hold, like, either bacteria or fish-like animals and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because the core of the planet is actually hot, you know what I mean, from all the there's like underwater volcanoes, so they believe it's supposed to hold life.
Mm-hmm. But
probably want a fish tank full of alien fish, huh?
I would. That'd be the most rarest fish in the world.
Nick would want to eat it, like sushi.
He ended up having to go a little bit early because he had to go to work.
I know, I'm just saying, Nick would probably like to eat it like sushi, though.
He doesn't like that kind of stuff. But what's weird about the Europa, the whole idea is, how do they know that there's liquid water underneath, or they think? Or I know that they're scientists and all, but just saying without going there, I don't know how they would figure it out unless, I guess, there's some sort of sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. It's not already. I believe they already sent out a probe to go there already.
Well, something else I'd like to talk about is, have you heard anything new about those satellites that they sent out in space that have the pictures of, and have like pictures of Earth and things that are on Earth and sounds and things like that on them?
Oh, that thing they just launched in space that had all of our all the languages of Earth and everything.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to that. I haven't heard from
that. There's only one of those, or is there a lot of them?
I think there's only one of them.
Are we talking about the one from the 70s?
Yeah, the one where it has like the golden disc inside of it, or the gold.
Oh yeah. Actually, I think I think there's only one.
Well, Brent was saying that there's one that they launched recently too. He was saying.
Actually, no. I heard there was another one recently too. Yeah, there's one from the 70s, and then there's one that I think it was like within 5 or 6 years ago or something like that.
Yeah.
That'd be great if someone actually found it.
I don't know what they're saying.
What would they do? Would they just find it, and what would they have to snatch it out of space, or how would that work?
Yeah, probably either something like that, or just crash land on a planet or something.
Or it'll crash land back on Earth with all the other space junk. Or what will happen is the aliens government will find it and they won't tell them that we exist.
That's definitely possible.
Right, Tim?
Yep. Just like Brent, you need to Brent to contact alien civilization. You need to blast the rocket into space with a bunch of N7 fold CDs. See what they say when they find it.
That's a little overboard.
Yeah, they'd be like, "Wow, this is amazing."
Master Exploder.
Oh yeah, Master Exploder.
I try to unmute Becky, but I can't hear anything. It just sounds like someone like breathing into the phone super loud, like you can't hear anything.
Huh, that's weird.
Say,
Oh no.
I'm not trying to ignore you, Becky, if you're listening. It's super loud. Like, I can't hear anything when we unmute you.
Oh yeah, Brett. And by the way, in the chat room, there's someone saying, there's people saying, you know, guys said we could be aliens. I said, yeah, that's true. You know, I've heard like, you know, the theories like we're descendants of aliens. And he said he knew a few Klingons, and Beck and I laughed. And then I made sure to write Nick's a Wookiee.
He is a Wookiee. What do you think, Brent? He's a Wookiee?
I think he's a Gundark.
Tear the ears off a Gundark, like on Star Wars?
Exactly.
But something else interesting. Whatever happened with that Yeti on Mars thing? Did they declare that was rocks on the planet?
That's what they said, but yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty sure that's what their final conclusion was, though. It was just like a rock formation.
You seen that, right, Brent?
What's that?
Didn't you see that? Supposedly they said that they found a Yeti on Mars.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've seen that.
Whatever happened with that?
I found it.
You stole it?
I'm not sure. The last I heard about it, they were speculating that it was like a rock formation or something like that.
I know it looks sort of like dust and rocks to me, but who found that? Was it NASA that released that photo, or was it just like a amateur that found that?
I have no clue.
Actually, I think it was the little rover.
Well, here's something interesting. There's a man who says that the moon was artificially made, and he says that it's hollow in the center. It's kind of funny.
And then he gets it supposed alien civilizations, like everyone says.
No, he says that they made it for some reason. I didn't read deep into it. I just seen it has its own website.
But no, definitely. I still believe, you know, of course, the most popular aliens I believe that visit us still was obviously the Greys for their genetic experiments and whatnot, and to come check up on us. That's what I believe, you know. Of course, they're the biggest alien civilization out there. But, you know, I've heard theories of, like, reptoid and reptilian-type creatures that are also come visit our planet. And, of course, the weird flying humanoid things, I don't even know what the heck those are.
Well, here's a good one. It says, there's a book called Above Top Secret, and it came out by a guy named Timothy Good. And he says, did Apollo 11 encounter UFOs on the moon? And he says, according to his unconfirmed reports, both Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin saw UFOs shortly after the historic landing on the moon on July 21st, 1969. He says, I remember hearing one of the astronauts refer to a light in or on the crater during the television transmission, followed by a request from Mission Control for further information. But nothing else was heard, is what he said. Huh. Interesting.
Indeed.
Okay, so what do you think of that? Do you think that there could have been something there, or do you think maybe it's just...
Well, I mean, I believe so. I've heard there's actually missions, like several different missions that NASA astronauts have actually said they've encountered UFOs.
Well, I know Stanton Friedman was saying something about he said that there's trips to the moon that they didn't even tell the public about, that we've been there more than we say we have.
Oh, really?
That's what he was saying one of the times we went on our show. I'm going to say, oh, here it is. Sorry, I got sidetracked. The same guy, he has a book about alien bases, and he wrote, there's an alien base on the far side of the moon. It was seen and filmed by Apollo astronauts, a base, a mining operation, he thinks, and a very large alien craft described in sighting reports as motherships exist. And this is a guy named Milton Cooper who worked for NASA was talking about that, is what the website says. So, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, that's pretty
I know
cool.
you were talking about that when you were up here, Brent, last weekend. You were saying the dark side of the moon they think has a base.
Oh, yeah, because we never get to see it, yeah. Yeah, I almost forgot about that.
What's the dark side of the moon?
Yeah, well, just that whole like, just everything.
The only thing is, how do they know if there is a base? Because I thought that even the NASA astronauts don't go over there because it's freezing cold.
Yeah, that's
The dark
what I was
side, yeah.
The dark
Oh,
side,
Brent's been there, though.
the Darth Vader.
Brent's been there, though. We should ask Brent what it's like there on the dark side. What is it like over there, Brent?
It's very cold and lonely.
It's somewhat humble.
Yes.
Nick's been to the dark side of the moon. But, well, something else I'd like to talk about, a question that keeps coming up, and it's on our Facebook right now. It says, why does the government keep wasting all this money on secret programs for space and life in space if they don't have proof that life exists in space already, and that they stick to their conclusion that life doesn't exist?
I don't know, maybe they have like a secret agenda that they're trying to go after or something.
Well, do you think that there could be, maybe they already have proof?
Well, yeah, that's the thing though. Like, of course, they probably already do have proof from a lot of other expeditions out there, but I mean, it's not like they're going to tell us.
Yes. Where's the foil? Waterboarder.
Please just don't dunk me again.
Don't dunk me again, please. Don't give me the water.
Yeah, in case everyone's wondering, that was a reference towards Nick. But yeah, I mean, there's just way too much evidence out there in the world. There can't be any, everyone says, oh, there can't be any alien life out there. Like, who says so? You know what I mean? There's absolute infinite amounts of universes and galaxies, and obviously a ton of video evidence and stuff. And I'm pretty sure, like you were saying, the government, I know they said the United States government has at least 36 UFOs they've found. The Russian government has probably more, is what I've heard. Well, so there has to be alien life out there somewhere. And of course, I'm an alien. I'm a king Grey, so right.
Well, something I was going to ask Brent was the SETI program. Do you know if that satellite called the Big Ear that sends out sound waves into space or keeps listening into space, is that part of the SETI program?
Actually, I heard that's in a different country.
It is?
Isn't it?
I don't know. But I was going to talk about that. I know Brent knows.
I'm not sure. I've heard about it. I've heard about it a couple times, but other than that, I don't know where it is or where it's located at.
Well, because if I don't remember, I think the SETI program is either in Southern California or Arizona, maybe even New Mexico. And then I know there's, I think it's Tibetan monks or monks of some sort. They actually have a gigantic satellite that they have like the world's biggest satellite that they broadcast stuff into space.
Well, this satellite, sorry, the chat got shut off. It just turned back on mine. But anyways, so this satellite called the Big Ear, it listens into space for incoming signals, but it also sends signals out. And I guess they were saying that sometime in the 90s or the late 80s, they actually got some sort of sound waves sent back to them, or I guess maybe just traveling across space. Do you know about that, Tim? I don't remember exactly. I know I've seen it on a TV show twice, I think, like 2 different shows.
Well, I mean, I've never heard of that before. I've heard theories like, again, that even was the last year the Chinese were communicating with an alien satellite or something like that too.
I never heard of that. I was going to say it was on
there was a thing.
Sighting.
I don't remember that one, but it was that particular part. But the only one I remember recently that said, like, anyone communicated with aliens is they believe the Chinese space program said they found a dark, like, alien satellite of some sort in space. And it was getting up weird signals, and they said somehow they were tracking it. But I never followed up on that, so. Because the only one I know about is they said one time there was someone was like doing that. They were shooting some sort of signals into space or something, but I guess at one point the satellite pointed at a bit, and they started to get responses back. They thought it was like, they were communicating with aliens, but I guess they had to point at like a radio station or something.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, that's what I was talking about.
So that one is it? Yeah, okay. Yeah, there was one where these people thought they were in direct communication with aliens, but I guess it was actually a radio station they had their satellite pointed at.
Mm. Well, so, of course, you knew this was coming up, the face on Mars.
I don't know. The face on Mars is really interesting. I never used to think much of it as a kid or even, like, recent years growing up, but recently, what they don't tell you is there's actually pyramids nearby, too.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so there's actually, like, a complex of, like, the alien face, and then there's pyramids nearby, too, on Mars. So that's what made me somewhat believe. I don't know what's going on there, but maybe at one point or another someone built something there.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the whole pyramid thing, how can those be built by just natural formations, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and they're in direct correlation, too, and they're in, like, a certain angle that, it had to be, like, mathematical and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Did some sort of alien civilization exist before to build that, or did advanced civilization come and build that on purpose, thinking that we're going to find it eventually? That's the two questions that you always hear about.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. It could be either or, I guess. But the only problem with people living there or things living there building it is I don't know if there's any breathable air or anything.
Well, I thought they said at one point that it could have had an atmosphere.
They said it may have had an atmosphere, but I don't know if it would have had any oxygen. I know they may have had running water at one point too.
Say, you know a lot about the face on Mars there, Brent?
Not that much. Just the general, like what you guys were talking about. But everyone knows that. Tim built those.
Yeah. I'm the King Gray. I'm the King Gray. I had my followers build it for me.
Something really interesting is you got to see a chef jump through a window. Well, but there's a second face on Mars too. I don't know much about that one. I've only seen it briefly. I don't know if it's real or not though.
I never heard of the second one. I only know about the obvious one.
I know a lot of people look way too much into that type of stuff, and they find all these random shapes and different things on the surface of the other planets. But the original face on Mars, when was that discovered? In the 70s?
Late 70s, early 80s, I believe.
Do you know, Brent?
I'm not sure on the date. I have to look it up.
To get to looking, Brent.
You want to?
Nah,
find it now.
I'll do it.
Well, we have 15 minutes left in the show. We're going to go on a quick commercial break, and then we're going to have a little bit of team news to finish off the show and a quick synopsis of tonight's show. And stay tuned because you're listening to VFP Radio.
I love Basso, it's rich in chocolate tea. Chocolate flavored Basso is mighty good for me. Mama puts it in my milk for extra energy. Basso gives me iron and sunshine vitamin D. Oh, I love Basso.
Hello, I'm Mr. Ed. A horse is a horse, of course, and no one can talk to a horse, of course. That is, of course, unless the horse is the famous Mr. Ed. Go right to the source and ask the horse. He'll give you the answer that you endorse. He's always on a steady course. Talk to Mr. Ed. People yakety-yak a streak and waste your time a day. But Mr. Ed will never speak unless he has something to say. A horse is a horse, of course, and this one will talk to his voice is hoarse. You never heard of a talking horse? Well, listen to this.
I am Mr.
Help, the human's about to escape.
Get your paws off me, you dirty ape!
He can talk.
He can talk, 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 he can talk.
I can sing!
Ooh, help me, Dr. Zayas.
Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas. Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas. Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas. Oh, Dr. Zayas.
Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas.
What's wrong with me?
I think you're crazy.
Want a second opinion?
You're also lazy.
Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas. Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas. Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas. Oh, Dr. Zayas.
And we're back on BFP Radio. Before we go on with synopsis of today's show and a little bit of news, what do you think of the faith on Mars and the alien existence out there, Brent, based on our discussion?
I think it's possible that there could be life on other planets, especially Mars, because some people say that it was an alien civilization at one point, kind of like ours, but I mean, it's kind of hard to tell now.
Yeah.
But I mean, if there is life out there, I mean, eventually it'll come to us, or it already has come to us, but or we have to just go out in there and actually look for ourselves.
Yeah, or I agree with you with all that, but I was thinking maybe, for instance, maybe sometime in the future we'll leave our planet for some reason, and maybe they'll find our buildings or see our, like the Egyptian pyramids or something, and they'll be wondering what some other civilization will be wondering what our buildings are, where we went. Because
oh yeah,
maybe the life was on Mars. Maybe they left for some reason. Like Tim would say, maybe they left because of the atmosphere, or resources, or something.
The rapture.
Raptors, velociraptors to be exact.
No, Brett, the river, remember? The really tall river.
Oh, yeah.
Or imagine if you got off with you're on the rocket ship from NASA. You land on Mars, you look out the window, and it's ruled by hordes and hordes of velociraptors. What would you do?
I don't know. I would cry.
Well, what's your theory on the alien civilizations in space, Tim?
Well, I told you, I definitely believe in alien civilizations, and I believe they've already visited us, and I believe somehow the government has obviously has proof somewhere that we're not the only ones out there.
Mm-hmm. Well, sorry, that's a little bit off topic, but where'd Becky go?
Mm-hmm. Good point.
I thought you muted her.
I did, but then I looked down and she was randomly gone like 15 minutes ago. I don't know where she went.
She wasn't in the chat room anymore, so I had left too. The chat was kind of dead.
For those of you who have been listening to tonight's show, we talked about ghost ships and the different types of ghost ships, along with alien civilizations in space. We briefly talked about that. But, again, for a little bit of team news here for a couple minutes before we end the show, tune into our Facebook, facebook.com/BFPteam, or our website, our main website, Bigfootspad.com, or our YouTube page. If you want to give that out, Tim?
What's that, dear?
Give out our YouTube page.
Oh, yeah, www.youtube.com/user/BFP team.
And we are periodically, over the next couple of months, we're going to be releasing short sneak peeks of our upcoming documentary series that we're making. That's us as a group. We're going to be making how many documentaries? Just like a whole handful of documentaries on our different adventures that we take and different investigations. And the first one, which is our Bigfoot expedition from last year, that's already up, the 22-minute sneak peek if you want to catch that. And again, your feedback's greatly appreciated on that, by the way. I guess right now we're in the midst of making another one, a sneak peek for a ghost investigation. That way you guys can all sort of get the hang of things on how we investigate before we release the full-length documentaries. Would you like to comment on that at all, Brett?
No, not really. I mean, just, check it out. Of course, we'd like to hear feedback on all of our stuff, just to see how the viewers like it, of course.
But besides that, in December, I guess this month now, me and Tim are going to California, and we're going to investigate with Brent and probably film a little bit more. We'll have more on that later on in the month. But for now, before I end the show, I'd like to talk about next week's show. Next week's show is going to be on Europe's Bigfoot and Bigfoot-like creatures. It's a topic that's not talked about very often, and I thought that that'd be interesting for us to talk about that. And anytime that's going to be open after Bigfoot talk, we're going to be talking about open lines, so feel free to call into that. And just in case you want to call in next week, it's 714 area code 202-9924. And again, for tonight's show, I'd like to thank my co-hosts, and I would like to thank everyone that participated in the chat room and asking questions. And tune in next Saturday at 3 p.m. Pacific for Europe's Bigfoot. It's going to be an exciting show, and you won't want to miss that one. And I'll let my co-hosts say their goodbyes.
See you next week, guys.
Thanks for listening. Have a good one.